Shwmai, croeso, hello, and welcome to episode 81 of the Bluebirds Nest. To say ni'n beilo nawr would be very apt for this week's special guest, I feel. I'm joined by both of my son's favourite musical artists, the man responsible for the music on the school run every morning for the Evans boys. He is known to many, as you can see, in West Wales as Andy, but for, well, many people across the country. I am delighted to have performer, radio and television presenter, and importantly, as you can see, Caernarfon fan, Mr Welsh Whisperer himself. Andy, croeso i'r Nif Gadair Gleision.
Diolch yn fawr, mate. Great to be here. Thanks a lot.
It's thank you for giving up some time. I know how busy your schedule is, mate, so to come on and chat through the Nest ahead of match day 30 on Saturday. It's a big one. We obviously host the team you've been following for quite some time now, I think, but before we get on to all of that, tradition with the Nest, when we have a guest on, we tend to talk through their own sporting journey. So way back when, I suppose, did you ever play football yourself?
Do you know what? Not really. I've always been, kicking around, and as I've got older, I've played five-a-side with my mates and stuff, but I've never, really played. My dad was a good footballer back in his day. He used to play for Llanboidi.
Yeah.
So
as did I actually once upon a time.
Did you? Yeah, different times maybe. Yeah. But he used to love it, and I think he was always a bit disappointed in me for my lack of footballing talent. But I've played a few charity games later on in life, and been ridiculed, but it's a good laugh. No, I've always enjoyed football. I've always followed it, but no, not much of a player. No.
I love it. Fair play. I've been thinking about this. Your first performance I saw you was on a stage in Caernarfon a few years ago, and I immediately enjoyed your catalogue of tunes, Tractor in the Mud, HMRC, and, well, I think my top favourite, Only Doing 20. That's my personal favourites. But, yeah, Ni'n Beilo Nawr, probably the boys' favourite with us. But after that then, obviously I was made aware of what you were doing, travelling the country and seeing your success in performance. But I think we first crossed paths one of our away trips to Caernarfon. I think I either must have seen one of the stickers on the back of the van, or quite possibly your hard-to-miss van.
Yeah, probably was mine, yeah.
in the Oval car park that day. And I was thinking, oh, okay. So I kept an eye out for you. And yeah, we've been chatting pretty much quite regularly ever since about all things Welsh football and that. But, knowing that your home for the majority of your youth was on the border of Pembrokeshire in southwest Wales, yeah, what was it that made you join the Coffee Army then?
Yeah, it's an unlikely love affair, isn't it? But as is common with dragging young men away from their homes, there's a golden ring involved.
Right.
Mrs. Whisperer, Angharad, is from Llanberis, so I've been living up in these parts. I lived in Bethesda for a while, which is not too far from here, about 10 miles away. And then we've lived in Caernarfon for about 3 or 4 years now. So that's the reason I'm here. And I'm only a stone's throw away from the Oval. So it was an absolute no-brainer to go and see him. I had been to see Caernarfon a couple of times before over the years. But, there were some smaller clubs that were a bit closer. So I used to go and watch Mynydd Llandegai sometimes, or Llanberis, in tier 3, tier 4. The tier 4 there actually, but it was always a bit more of a pull, at the Oval, and I'm sure it's the same down with you as well. It's more of what I would call a football experience. The turnstile, you can have a couple of beers if you want, and there's a bit of chanting, and there's more people there for a start. So it's a better atmosphere, I suppose. Although I do still go to lower level football, I enjoy it. Having a cup of Oxo on the side, lean against the railings. I still love all that, but when the Oval's packed, it's really the closest thing you'll get to what other people travel a long way for. There's a lot of people here that'll go on a bus to Wrexham, or there's a lot of people that go away to Leeds and Aston Villa, obviously Man United, Liverpool, Man City and all that. So, okay, it's not quite the same atmosphere, but that's a different argument again for, why people support local football. But yeah, that's the reason that I support Caernarfon anyway. And ever since I started going there, I just never stopped, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard drug to get off once you're in there. You're addicted, isn't it? It's fascinating. And yeah, been to the Oval many times. Great venue for sport. And behind the bank, what would have been, I think, Ben Foster's stand. I don't know whether it's still sponsored, but
I think it is up there, signed still. Yeah.
It's often pretty packed out, to be fair, and it's been a great venue. It's been a great few years for both of our clubs. We've each had European adventures, having won the playoffs as well. no doubt the scenes as your own team lifts the handleless trophy will forever bring a smile to your face, like it does to everyone associated with the Haverfordwest as well. But yeah, Caernarfon then went on their own little fairy tale adventure to probably seen as potential underdogs when the draw came out against the Crusaders. But, you know, Richard Davis, Fish, as he's known in Welsh circles, the manager, he led the team to great success. 2-0 win, I think it was, at home. I remember watching that and seeing you there on S4C enjoying. It was a lovely summer's evening in
Well, I was going to say, it was in Bangor, wasn't it? Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. The game was played at Nantporth, Bangor's ground, because of, UEFA licensing and the facilities and all that. But, we rented the place, we hired it for one game. And everybody had a bit of faith as a fan, but nobody really thought that Caernarfon would actually beat Crusaders, because they are a club that were perceived to be better than Caernarfon, and their league is perceived to be better, more professional. I think they're pretty much full-time. I'm not sure how much truth is in that, but that's what everyone was saying anyway. But certainly, we were shocked to be 2-0 up in that game. And but then we were full of excitement for the away leg. So, but it was amazing, and just to see, a big crowd, a packed out stand. If you look at the stadium, there's sort of one main stand, and it was absolutely packed. And that's the kind of thing that, as football fans, especially in the Welsh system, we're all working towards, because you see it in the lower leagues, non-league football in England. Small stadiums, but packed out stadiums with fantastic atmospheres. That's what we're going for. It's never going to be Old Trafford. It's never going to be Anfield, but we don't want it to be. But it would be good to have something like that week in, week out. So it definitely gave us a taste of what was to come. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great night for Caernarfon, but also it's funny, no matter rivalries throughout any Cymru League season, I can't help but support the other Welsh teams, when they're competing in Europe. I will be honest, mainly for the coefficient points.
I did. I watched Haverfordwest when they were playing out in Europe. I was streaming it on Scorio, and supported them massively. It's a bit of a local thing for me as well, from being from down that neck of the woods. But I would have anyway. Like when TNS last year. Yeah. I watched all the games and I was hoping they'd do well, like you say, because it's good for the game. Despite the whole, the bigger picture of all it. But yeah.
I remember seeing it was Morgan Owen, I think, with that cracking goal in the first leg. Obviously, his Tatus trade-in was a bit of a... I think it was trending on Twitter because he had...
Yeah, probably, yeah. He sold a few spuds that day, I
think. Scoring a goal in Europe on the Thursday night and selling spuds on the Friday morning that's just classic.
That's beautiful. That's the game. That's how it is, yeah. And it's the reality of a lot of these boys. And, further on, we'll get onto it, I'm sure, in the next couple of rounds, the next couple of games. It was unbelievable, the experiences those boys must have had.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go to the second leg. So 2-0 at home, over to Belfast, to Northern Ireland, where you played. Did you manage to get on the trip?
Absolutely, yeah. I was there, 100%. There were about 500 people out there, I think. I didn't count, but the stand was pretty full. And that was, I actually think, a lot of Wales fans, right, talk about Euro 2016 as being the greatest ever, because it had just never happened before, seeing the Wales flag and the UEFA banners and everything. And I think for us, that really was the same thing. And I say us, as in I'm quite a new Caernarfon Town fan. Only the last few years I've actually been into it. There are people here who've been there since they were in prams, and they're old men now. They've been going their entire lives, and women. And it was emotional for them, to see, because it's something that had never happened before. Yeah. So it was absolutely incredible. It was it was a bit like a stag do, it was massive, but walking around Belfast and going from pub to pub, and everywhere you looked, and I mean everywhere, it was yellow shirts, like the shirt behind me here, and yellow scarves, and the canary, and the squad did a little walkthrough, which was pre-organized. So they walked through where all the fans were, and it was unbelievable. It's like we were at the Euros or something, or a World Cup or something. It was amazing. So, and that, this is at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The game was about 7:45 kickoff, I think. So, yeah, there was a bit, but it was an interesting. We made it. But, we'd been over to play against Cliftonville a couple of weeks or a short while before in a friendly. So I think a few people had been over to scout it out, and some of their fans had come to join us as well. So it was just a great trip. And the game, well, what a game, you know. And I think we all thought it was all going to fall apart, you know, in that second half. And then the penalties. I've watched it. There's a documentary, you've probably seen it on iPlayer, Covies in Europe, and I've watched it about 4 times, and I keep seeing new things that I didn't notice. You know, nothing to do with the long day on the beers, probably, but what an experience! And that was a step up then from what we had in Bangor, because that was a much bigger ground. If you have a look at Crusaders' ground, it's I don't know, it'd be comparable to maybe like a Scottish Championship ground or something like that. It's a proper stadium, 2 big stands and 2 smaller ones either goal, and the whole place packed, and you know, real great atmosphere, especially for us, you know. So it was absolutely bouncing, yeah.
It looked it, to be fair, and obviously when you got over the line, 7-6 on penalties, I think it was, or something.
Yeah, something mad, yeah.
Remarkable. And then obviously, you know, European giants, to be fair, in our context anyway, a massive club in Legia Warsaw in the next round.
Yeah.
I felt for you, because obviously having seen you experience that. And, you know, when we went to North Macedonia in our first round tie, and the number of fans that made the effort to come over, you know, it's a huge expense for them, but they were there, and no doubt they would have been the same for you guys. It was slightly different for us in the second round. We had the Faroe Islands, which is even more difficult to get to.
Yeah.
But you'd imagine people would have travelled to Warsaw. So the bittersweet moment, for those that don't know, was the fact that the home side were enforced by UEFA, meaning that no supporters could be in the ground to watch because of, bit of bad behaviour, I think, in previous fixtures, should we say.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah. What was that like then? You know, massive tie, but not being able to be there.
Well, do you know what? I actually felt sorry for the players, because that is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, probably for all of those players, or definitely most of them, you know, to play in front of not only a full stadium. I think it holds about 30,000 fans, but not just any 30,000, you know, they're world famous for the atmosphere, all the pyrotechnics and the chanting and the drums and everything. So what an experience that would have been for those players, you know. And like you say, selling potatoes one day, playing in front of 30,000 nutters the next day is crazy. But and there was a bit of drama as well. The flight that was chartered for the squad and all the staff, I think it got delayed, and they had to end up flying from Birmingham instead of Manchester or Liverpool or something like that. So they actually didn't get to the stadium to have a little kick around and a look around, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, you know. So you started thinking at that point, I mean, it was never you never expected to pull off anything against Legia Warsaw, but then you started thinking, is this going to go very badly for us? You know, this is, you know. And I noticed as well, you would expect this, but these are international players. This is really the next level. They're not just good professional players. These are elite athletes, you know. You know, but you know what? Caernarfon Town, I watched the match on a stream, and it wasn't as bad as what you might have thought. You know what I mean? Some people were saying, oh, it's going to be 15-0 at halftime or something real, you know, cricket scores, but it wasn't.
It was. I remember early on, they had a really big chance in like the first minute or two, if I remember rightly. And
yeah,
you know, a valiant effort across the 2 legs. Obviously, the opposition went through, but, you know, what an experience for the boys. And like you say, it must have been disappointing somewhat with regards to the stadium, because it would have been even better, you know, had that place been packed to the roof.
I would have loved to have gone there, you know, and I'm sure many others would. It's difficult, though, you know. That's the life of modern football, you know, when you don't know where the next round's going to be. So you've got the cost factor of it. So, you know, people are going to have to drop tools. They got work and lives and families, and think, right, I'm going to Poland on Wednesday, you know. And then imagine if we'd have beaten someone in that round, then, we're going to Denmark on, you know, it's crazy. But that's how it is, yeah.
That is how it is. And, you know, my own experience, I remember when we beat KF Skendia in Cardiff on penalties that night, thinking, what on earth am I going to do? I'm in work next week and the week after. I'm not missing out, you know, the trip to the Faroe Islands. What am I going to do? And I remember quite bleary-eyed the next morning, the Friday morning, I was in work. I said to my boss, you know, can I have a quick chat with you, please? You know, and I just had to make amendments. And
I would say to anyone now, because if I hadn't have gone to Belfast, I would have been furious, because I really enjoyed that. And I would say, you know, back to the point I made earlier about people talking about Euro 2016, I wasn't there actually, but that was the best football experience I've ever had. And I mean that, right? So I've been to Wales away trips a few times. I've been to plenty of Wales home games. That was something else. It was electric and it was absolutely bouncing for it wasn't 90 minutes. It was about 190 minutes, I think, by the end. But it was just non-stop. I remember at half time, they had the PA. It was like we'd already won the game. We were like having a little nightclub party on the, on the chairs there, on the seats in the stand. It was just class. Still buzzing off it. Yeah.
No, I'm having flashbacks in my own head now about, because you're at the front line of it, you get to know the players, their families, everybody associated with the club. It's one big community. So yeah, it does mean so much to clubs that get into Europe, which is why it's such a scramble for it this time of year, which we will come on to shortly. But you mentioned the documentary there. Obviously, Scorio followed the team across Europe, produced a great documentary, about the adventures. Having done one ourselves, I can only imagine. You said you'd watched it back plenty of times. You've got to pinch yourselves, almost now on reflection about what you achieved. But what I quite liked with how Rhys Lloyd from Scorio, how he did it, was he focused on the team behind the team as well, which, we're a part of now, I suppose, that, the ones developing things behind the scenes at these clubs, key individuals. I think Begu in particular, who's your partner now with regards to your own club podcast that you do. You've got involved in that side of things, but Begu runs the social media for Caernarfon, I believe. How are you both getting on with your own podcast then?
Yeah, so we've started a podcast quite similar to this one called Cast, which has been really good so far. We've done 3 episodes now, and we've had some interesting guests, and it's a great way of just getting stories and a bit more in-depth things that you can't just say in one tweet or one Facebook post, and people have loved it so far. They go up on YouTube once a month at the moment, and yeah, we've had some interesting guests. We've had the chairman, Paul, did the first one, and he wanted to get a lot of things out there and talk about, because I'm sure it's the same down in Haverfordwest now. After that European trip, there was a lot of talk around town about the money and when it was coming, how much it was going to be. There's a lot of figures bouncing around in town, and people, because Caernarfon is really like that. So there are a lot of people I know. I'll bump into them down the supermarket, and they'll be yapping away about the football club. It's amazing. And some people don't even know their names, honestly. And that's all I do is talk to them about Caernarfon. It's just something we've got in common. But there's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, this money's coming in. This is going to happen. Oh, they've got to do these. They need to spend on this, blah, blah, blah. So he put all that out to just put it, he's a very straight talking guy. So he told people exactly what the situation was, which was, people really appreciated that. And, what the club's plans were for the future. And the fact that it's a long-term game. Yeah, they can't just go and spend a load of money. I'm not involved in that side of it, but they can't just go and spend all the money straight away and just hope for the best, because they'll be back where they were. I think they were in quite financial trouble many years. Well, I don't know when it was, quite a few years ago now, but they were on the brink of going bust, I think. So the people who were there absolutely don't want to go back there. So yeah, but the podcast is really good, and we chop up the best bits, if you like, similar to what you do, and put them out. And those clips have been getting loads and loads of hits. And we had a lot of people might not know, but the England kit man, guy called Pat Frost, he's a big Caernarfon Town fan. And this blew my mind when I started going and I bumped into this guy. I thought, winding me up. We're talking about this guy called Kitman Pat. And he's a really, really nice guy. And he's there. He lives in Telford, which is 106 miles away or something like that. And he's there. Most games he's there. Home and many of the away games as well. It's a long story. You have to watch the podcast to find out. But he had childhood.
Nice.
He had a childhood connection with the area, and he's been involved ever since. He's on the board now. But that was amazing. There's a great story on there about him being in the Euros with England, in Germany, in Gelsenkirchen, in the leisure complex, and Gareth Southgate and all the boys watching Caernarfon Town against Crusaders on the big screen. And you don't believe it. And I couldn't believe it. And he's not winding us up here. He's saying they were all watching it. And he said some of the players, these are Premier League, some of the best players around, coming up to him now and saying, how are Caernarfon Town getting on? Yeah. So it's incredible. So stuff like that is really interesting. And we're hoping to get there's an unlimited amount of guests that we can have on Cast. Players, ex-players, fans who live abroad. We've got a guy coming up now called John Watkin, who is he's the president of the club, but he's a real man for the stats. So any permutations, anything you need to know, get him on speed dial. He can map it all out, so that'll be really interesting. Yeah,
that's awesome. I remember seeing the flag, the England flag, I think it was, with the Caernarfon Town in the summer. That went a bit viral. So yeah, I'm well aware of Kitman Pat. We speak pretty regularly about how the league needs to grow, and like you said, they almost taking fans behind the curtain a bit with things like the podcast, etc. And obviously they've announced the new league format, etc., that are scheduled for 26-27 season. But I suppose this is a big question here. You know, if you were the powers that be, what else do you think can make a positive impact on the league to really put it up a level or two?
It is a big question, but I think everyone would agree that something needs to change, because there have been a lot of people involved for a long time and not that much progress, perhaps. But it depends how you measure progress, because perhaps the people who've been in the game for, volunteering for 20 years would say, actually, you should have seen it 20 years ago, so fair enough. They've come a long way. Things like this have come a long way. The social media coverage, although it can definitely improve across the board, it's come a long way. And even now, since I came into following domestic Welsh football, when I started, I couldn't even find out who was playing when. I had to go and look at the board outside the bus stop, outside the ground. You couldn't do it because there was no Cymru football app. And I remember saying to my mate who works in Scorio, you need to, I don't know if you can do this, but you need to make an app that tells everyone when the games are on. And then the Cymru football app from the FA came out, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And they've gone beyond. It goes down to Cambodia under nines or whatever. Yeah. You can see, you can check everything. But it's definitely a good help, because we're competing against the mainstream global brand of football, the Premier League next door, and the Championship, and the whole football league. It's massive, so it's a tough one. I wouldn't be against seriously looking at a summer league. I know that's a bit of a controversial. Well, some people are like it, some people don't. But I think when you've got Liverpool and Man City on the telly, are you really expecting people to go and watch Haverfordwest and Caernarfon Town on the same day? You've got to be very keen to prefer that, I think. But I mean, I prefer it. But there are a lot of people who would much rather sit home and watch it in their armchair, So that's one thing. But the league format will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it works. I think most people would agree that it gets a bit stagnant playing the same teams so many times, that it'll be interesting. But what will also be interesting then is, will the teams that come up be able to grow quick enough to not get a spanking every week? Because and they might come back and sting me now. We're watching now. Caernarfon probably lose against someone. But because the jump between the Cymru North and the Cymru South and the Cymru Premier is quite big. And I remember a really good game I went to watch at the start of would it have been last season, when we went to Colwyn Bay away. And Colwyn Bay were full of promise. They'd just come from the English system maybe a year or two before, and there was big talk about them being the ones to challenge TNS, because they'd come from a sort of bigger setup. Yeah. But they got battered 4-0 on the first day. It was great. But and they had a terrible season, so they didn't survive. They went down. So I'm sure they'll be back. They're doing well now in the Cymru North. I'm sure they'll be back and they'll build and grow. But it just shows that the jump is quite big. But I suppose that's what you want. You want the Cymru Prem to be the holy grail that you have to build to and get to. You don't want clubs saying, no, I'd rather be in the Cymru South or the Cymru North because I don't have to travel as far. That's not a good model.
No, I think I remember 2 great visits to the Four Crosses Construction Arena at Colwyn Bay. They were really hospitable, great fans, good attendance numbers as well, which obviously, developing that community side of things was great. Obviously, results didn't go for them, and they got relegated off the bounce. And them and Abus now seem to be going nose to nose to come back up, and hopefully they would have learned a few lessons. And yeah, like you say, when it does become a 16-team league, it provides them that platform to kick on a bit. But yeah, not too much, I suppose, isn't it?
But I mean, I would say as a fan, you definitely welcome clubs like Colwyn Bay because they've got a nice little setup there, and most importantly, they've got a great fan base. So we went there, and both stands were quite full, and you've got people all wearing the shirts and the scarves and quite, fanatics. That's fantastic. That's what you want, yeah? There's nothing worse than turning up somewhere and there's just nobody there, like we could all name a few teams like that where you turn up and there's something seriously wrong with what those clubs are failing to do and engage with the communities. So it's really not good for the game. It's not good for the players. So, I definitely hope that clubs like Colwyn Bay, and there are other clubs lower down in the pyramid who are underachieving at the moment, that, hopefully will come back. You've got your Rill, probably shouldn't say, but Bangor 1876, probably. I'll get hammered for that now. I don't have that sort of hatred for the boys down the road. I wouldn't go watch them, but some of these boys, they're hardcore, so they really wouldn't even say the B word. So I will get battered for that now. Sorry.
Brilliant. We'll bleep that one out, perhaps.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
With and one of the tweaks to the league format going forward is obviously Friday night football has been highlighted as a key mechanism, I suppose, to do, to get engagement on a Friday night. Let's go and watch the game down the road sort of approach, which is great. But for you guys to travel, I suppose, Jenna Park or Kincoid campus with Cardiff Met or somebody, it's just nigh on impossible perhaps on a Friday evening to get down there in time for kickoff. Likewise with us in the southwest, all the way up to Flintshire, the Essity Stadium with Flint or Connors Quay now, that's going to be a real challenge. So yes, it would be great for the home attendances if that's what they're considering doing it that, because of that. But it's going to be such a challenge for supporters in particular to get down and support their teams. Then
it's a challenge for the away supporters, isn't it? I mean, I think our attendances are generally better on a Friday night or even a midweek. I've been to the Oval many times on a Saturday afternoon, glorious sunshine, thinking this is going to be brilliant. You turn up and there's 400 people there or something like that, which is not good. But, there are so many reasons for that. Other people have got things to do on a Saturday. Children are playing sports, or maybe they're playing football themselves, or, they're doing family things. So a Friday night is a bit of a, what else am I going to do sort of time. So it does work. But yeah, the away support is going to suffer because it's almost impossible. You might as well say it's impossible. You're going to have to, you're not going to take a day off work to travel and watch your team. I know in the big world of football that would happen, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But maybe they're just hoping to boost attendances home first. Maybe that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah, I've had an idea for you in particular. I think you need a pen, a soundtrack to the Cymru Premier. I think I was thinking about how we would change the words, and I think there's been a fair bit of A470 blues over the years, certainly. And,
yeah, they have. Yeah, definitely for everyone involved.
There's a challenge for you to reword it.
I'll have a think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, to this season then, it's it's almost reaching its dramatic climax, it seems, and the Coffees are hot on our tails. We are currently third in the league, not mathematically unable to catch second ourselves, but pretty unlikely now, you'd have thought. The Coffees fourth, just a few points behind us, and obviously Cardiff Met are by no means out the race for third either. Bala, I think, mathematically sixth now. I don't think they can quite catch the fifth. I don't think so. The permutations of how it could all play out now are, they're always mind-boggling every season. But in essence, us in the top six, we're all guaranteed a playoff place. However, and it's a big if TNS overcome the Nomads in the Welsh Cup final, Penybont, as current second in the league, they'll achieve an automatic place in Europe this summer, leaving 5 teams fighting for the remaining spot. If a TNS Cup win scenario does play out, that means third place goes straight into a playoff final, which would be at their home ground against the winners of effectively a quarter and semi-final playoff process. It's mind-boggling, but many people have been asking me about it recently, so hopefully that clears things up. However, if the Nomads win the Cup, they will be in Europe themselves, and Penybont will then be in the playoffs, and we'll follow a completely different process. And I think rather than explaining that one, though, I'll put a link to an article on screen to let people find out for themselves, because there are just so many alternatives, particularly when Nomads might finish 8th, let alone 7th. But the point I was going to allude to is that Saturday, it's a massive fixture ahead of us this weekend. The Coffees will no doubt be wanting to close the gap on us, and things have been going well for you, to be fair, as well. You had a number, I must admit, a number of great signings in the January window. Some experience and some young, exciting talent coming in there. you've got a fire in front line at the moment. You put 5 past Bala last weekend as well, which was not unsurprising, but a fantastic result.
Yeah, go back a couple of years, it would have been that wouldn't have happened. You know, Bala have always been kind of neck and neck with Caernarfon, and it's always been you know, a tough team to beat, and we've lost against them many times. They've always been up there as among the best of the rest. You know, over the years, it's been interesting and healthy, I think, for football to see a bit of a change of the guard. Connors Key and Bala, 2 teams who were always up there, second and third generally. They've dropped right off, and Penabont have come up and they gave TNS a really good challenge for the first half of the season, which is a good start, you know, and Haverfordwest as well, you know, because after it was a disappointing season after Europe, wasn't it, for Haverfordwest, and I think a lot of people thought after that European campaign, oh, they'll be flying again, and, you know, and they dipped off, and I was a bit worried that might happen to us as well, because you know, there must be something in that, the sort of European hangover. Because we dropped a lot of points. We beat TNS away when they were in the middle of their European trip, which was great. And I think a few people scalped a few points off TNS. Did Haverfordwest get something off them?
No, we didn't play them during that era much.
Right. But yeah, we beat them 2-1 away. And we thought, we are flying out. And we lost about 6 on the trot then, or more even. And lost 4-0 against Aberystwyth at home. Just absolutely shocking. So there was something going on there. So it's frustrating. That's how football is. But you think back, you're like, God, if we would have not dropped those points, maybe we'd be in third safe, or maybe, you know, even tickling second, you know, but you can't look at it like that. It's gone, it's been and gone.
Yeah, that's what's made it so exciting, I think, this season, because TNS have had half an eye, well, more than half an eye. They've really had a good crack at Europe themselves, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, it's really opened things up. And yeah, credit to Penabont. Ourselves, we've had a really good, you know, a record-breaking season for ourselves as well, and other clubs as well. It does make you wonder, you know, imagine if the league was really open, or you know, a bit more open every year. It'd be even better, because it's almost like, it seems, a race for second every year, let's be honest, you know. And like you say, you got Barry are a great team, narrowly missed out on top 6 themselves. They are, you know, ones to watch if they get in the playoffs. You got Bala and the Nomads, the Nomads, that, you know, this team's Flint have really impressed me this year. You know, we lost to Flint away. They turned us over, and rightfully so on the day. You know, there's lots of great teams on it. Britain Ferry as well got a lot of exciting talent. So it does make you wonder, you know, for sort of the future, when it goes to 16 in particular, going to be really competitive for those spots in the top 6, the middle bracket.
Yeah, I think first, it's hard to see anyone else win in the league, to be honest, unfortunately. And that's a debate for a whole another podcast or another day, probably. But it will get more competitive, because, you know, if the teams that are going to come up are going to not impress as much as your Flints and your Britain Ferries, are they going to move into the sort of middle ground? And then we're all going to be scrapping for however many places we've got. You could have 6 or 7 teams going for 3 or 4 places, you know. So that's what you want. That's what you want, is excitement. But as long as we get it, that's right.
Well, I'm buying Euro Millions tickets like they're going out of fashion. I think, look out, Mike Harris, for the future.
Yeah, that's what they need. That's what they need, a bit of investment. But that, you know, it's another thing. All the clubs do need to try and improve their sort of product, make it more investable. I went to a great night with Noel Mooney, was on tour with Chris Gunter and all those boys. They probably came down your end as well, in Caernarfon in the clubhouse. And, you know, he was putting it out there and saying, you know, there are a lot of things that clubs can do to get more investment, you know, and have projects oven baked, is what he called it. So have things ready to go, and then when a grant comes out, bang, we can do it. We can move faster this way. And I think, you know, not to put any sort of judgment or blame on anyone. And I'm a volunteer as well at this club, you know, and I know that people put in, you would not believe, when you would believe, but some people wouldn't believe the amount of hours that people put in. So you can't be judgmental and say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But, you know, working together and having a good professional sort of structure to an amateur setup can definitely help. And that's the direction we're all traveling in. So hopefully we can move on a bit. Yeah.
Definitely. You open up seamlessly for me there. Another member of the Coffee Army who's put in loads of hours, 400 games in actual fact, is your skipper. He celebrated that achievement on the weekend. Who, you know, he's been a great player, Darren Thomas, the Coffee Messi, as he's known, pretty much across Wales. I think that nickname is
Yeah.
cottoned on now, to be fair to him. You know, he's been a great servant for the club, great leader for the Coffees for many years. I think I've heard a couple of rumours he likes a pint as well, so I'm assuming you two have sampled the Caernarfon nightlife together.
Well, I tell you what, I have seen him out and about, but I don't know if you'd remember. But like, no. He's a real. So he is a proper commie, right? So he is the people who are born and bred in town. He's a proper job. He's not like a schmuck like me who's just moved in, right? He's the real deal. So Darren Bach, yeah, absolute legend. And he said himself in that Scorio documentary that it was a bit of an awakening for him in the last couple of years. He sees so many kids walking around in Caernarfon Town shirts and the tracksuits and everything. And you do see a lot of them, more than you probably ever used to. And he said that, the kids were looking at him and go, it's Darren Bach, what is Darren Bach? So that must be amazing for him, to have that. And what a player, 400 appearances for Caernarfon. That's serious, and I think generally is regarded as one of, if not the best player to play for town. No disrespect to anyone else, but what a player. And he's playing a bit less now. I'm not sure how old he is. He's in his sort of mid-30s, I think, but he's still doing a job for Caernarfon, and what a guy. But yeah, he's I don't know him as well as the boys who grew up with him, and all that. He can be a man of a few words, but I think if you go into the Newborough Arms at about 10:30, you probably got a few more words. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, listen, feel free to take him to the Tavern Sink or somewhere like that on Friday night. I
tell you what, you need a translator, I think, because I have Darren Bach and Tavern Sink. I don't think that would work.
Are you down this weekend?
Do you know what? I can't. I'm not down this weekend, but I am looking if there's a playoff, down there by any chance at some time, I will definitely be there. I've been trying to suss out what the options are for my travel plans, which is difficult, because everybody's busy, but I wouldn't want to miss it for the world. But I'm gonna have to, I might have to let someone down.
Yeah,
there's something booked in. So if they're watching this now, I better not lie and make up an excuse. Better tell straight.
Who knows? Yeah. To be fair, the Coffees have got excellent home support and do travel well as well. To be fair. Many supporters heading down to Pembrokeshire this weekend?
Well, a load of them went down to Cardiff Met not long ago. So it's tough for away fans. I know there's a few going that don't normally go away down south because it's a big game. But, the numbers, we spoke about this with Kitman Pat. So if you're listening to this now and you said, we said something like, 25 people went to Cardiff Met, you'd think some people might say, well, that's nothing. But, proportionately, that's actually quite big. You know what I mean? If there was 400 people there at home, that's quite a lot of them that actually went down. So you'd be hoping there'd be a bus going down, like a few cars to enjoy it. But Haverfordwest is a long way. But as the season goes on, I think more and more people would be up for it. Yeah. And so if the playoffs come in, we'll be on the wagon all the way down to Haverfordwest, 100%.
Who knows? There might be another tie between the clubs yet to come after this Saturday before the season ends. I'm not jinxing anything, but who knows? Hopefully we'll have a beer or two if that's the case. If anyone wants to enjoy what I do every morning on the school runs, with regards to your music these days, hopefully you've got a slice of the fees on the streaming and that. But where's the best place to support your music then?
Well, do you know what? I've had lots of good nights in Pembrokeshire over the years. Places like up in North Pembrokeshire, Crimich, Fishguard as well, Newport Pems, Gwaun Valley. I had a great one down in Puncheston a few years ago. That's really rural, isn't it? Little farming village down there. Pembrokeshire Show, I've done a lot down there. And it's a tough one. People ask me all the time where the best places to go. And I enjoy going everywhere. But it is nice to go home, So anywhere in Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire, or even Ceredigion, great nights out there. So hopefully there'll be a few more to come as well.
Fantastic. I know you do school visits as well. So if anyone is listening from an education background wants a visit for you to come in and do your masterclass workshops, etc. I know my two have both been through it and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'll certainly give a testimonial on that. I think I'm going to have to buy a Ni'n Beilo Nawr sticker for the back of the car, I think, as well.
I tell you what, I'll send you one for the Haverfordwest team bus. So you can stick it on the back there. I'll send you a few, yeah?
Fantastic, mate. Listen, I've really enjoyed this. I'm going to put the website, the Ni'n Beilo Nawr stickers, everything else is available on screen at the moment, as you can see. But listen, mate, really appreciate your time. It's been good to build up the nerves, I think, more than the excitement for this weekend. It's always close between the teams. And, well, let's just say, hopefully, in your infamous words, let's hope this weekend it's a good thing.
Yeah, I hope it is going to be a good thing for me, not for you. That's the only thing. But it'll be a good game, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Diolch, mate. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you soon.
Diolch yn fawr, up the cofies. Cheers, boys.